Welcome to Super English Talks. This is the place where we share ideas that help you think in English, speak with more confidence, and connect with people around the world through real, meaningful conversations. Maybe you are listening while you're walking, traveling to work, or just relaxing at home. Wherever you are, I'm happy that you are here. I want to invite you to listen not only with your ears, but also with your mind and with your heart. Today we're going to talk about something that touches all of us every single day, whether we notice it or not. That topic is social media. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X as people call it now. TikTok, YouTube, WhatsApp. These apps and platforms are everywhere. They are part of modern life. They have changed the way we communicate, the way we share news, and even the way we see ourselves. But here's the big question. Are we the ones using social media? Or is social media using us? Let's think about it. What is the first thing you do in the morning when you wake up? Do you grab your phone and check your notifications? What is the last thing you look at before you go to bed? Do you scroll through posts, videos, or messages until your eyes get tired? And during the day, how many times do you open your phone? Not because you need to, but simply out of habit? These small actions might look harmless. They seem normal, right? But little by little, they shape the way we think, the way we pay attention, and even the way we feel about ourselves. Now, I want to be clear. This episode is not about saying social media is bad. You should delete all your accounts. No. Life is not that black and white. Social media can be very useful. It can help us learn, connect, and even find opportunities. But the real question is, what role does social media play in our daily life and in our inner world? Because social media is not only a tool anymore. It has become something bigger. It's like a mirror. But here's the tricky part. This mirror is not perfect. It's a mirror we have edited, filtered, and sometimes even distorted. And that brings us to an important reflection. Is social media shaping who we are? Or is it simply showing who we already are? This question may sound deep, maybe even philosophical, but it's also very practical. It connects directly to our daily experience, our identity, our mood, our relationships, our beliefs. If you are listening to this, I know you're not here just to study grammar rules or memorize lists of vocabulary. You're here to express yourself in English, clearly, naturally, and honestly. You want to speak about real life, real thoughts, and real feelings. And to do that, we need to explore topics that actually matter. So today, let's go deeper. Let's look at our habits on social media, our emotions when we scroll or post, the algorithms that decide what we see, the way social media influences our identity, and how all of this connects to our mental health. We will also talk about conscious choices, how we can take back control and use social media in a way that supports our growth instead of hurting it. As always, I'll be speaking in natural, conversational English, the kind you would hear if you were talking with a thoughtful friend. You'll hear useful phrases, expressions, and questions that you can use in your own conversations. So take a deep breath. Give yourself this moment to slow down, to listen carefully, and to reflect. This is your time to grow, not just in your English, but also in your awareness. Let's begin. A day in the life. How social media sneaks in. Let's take a moment together and walk through a regular day. Not a holiday, not a birthday, not a stressful exam or deadline day. Just an ordinary day. The alarm goes off. Your eyes are still heavy. You haven't even stretched yet. And before your feet touch the floor, your hand moves almost automatically to grab your phone. You don't really decide to do this. You don't make a plan. It just happens. Your phone lights up. You check the time. You see notifications. You swipe. You start scrolling. At first you think, just 1 minute. But 1 minute becomes 5. 5 becomes 10. Suddenly, 20 minutes are gone. And in those 20 minutes, you've already seen photos, news, updates, maybe funny videos. You've already filled your mind with other people's lives before you've even said a word to yourself. This is how social media sneaks into our day. Quietly.
Casually.
Almost like background music that slowly becomes the main song. It doesn't feel like we are choosing it. It feels normal. It feels automatic. But little by little, it becomes a habit. And habits are powerful. The more we repeat them, the less we notice them. They become invisible. Now, let's move forward in the day. You're getting ready for work, or maybe for class. You're eating breakfast. Your phone is still nearby, always within reach. A message arrives. A short video. A new post. Without thinking, you unlock the screen. You tell yourself, just for a second. But that second becomes a distraction. That distraction becomes a detour. And that detour becomes a drain. Your focus disappears. Your thoughts are interrupted. And the worst part? You don't even notice it happening. There's even a name for this behavior, doom scrolling. It means scrolling endlessly through negative or heavy content, often news, without really stopping. And here's the interesting part. Doom scrolling doesn't always feel bad in the moment. Sometimes it feels like you're staying informed. Sometimes it feels like you're relaxing. But underneath, your brain is being flooded with a constant stream of information, without pause, without reflection, without control. Have you ever opened your phone just to check one thing, and then looked up 30 minutes later, wondering where the time went? That's not because you're weak. That's not because you don't have willpower. That is design. These apps are created carefully to keep your eyes on the screen. Notifications are timed to pull you back. Algorithms are built to guess what you will look at the longest. It's not about you personally. It's about business. And your attention, your time is the product. But here's where it gets even deeper. This isn't only about lost minutes or wasted hours. It's about the way you think. Every time you scroll, like share or react, your brain is practicing tiny habits. Your focus gets shorter. Your thoughts become quicker, faster, more reactive. You start to think in short comments, in quick clips, in headlines. And slowly, without realizing it, your brain gets trained to prefer surface-level content. It becomes harder to sit with one idea for a long time, harder to read deeply, harder to be still with your own thoughts. Your natural rhythm of thinking, your mental flow, is reshaped by what you consume. This may sound serious, but it's not meant to scare you. It's simply reality. And reality is something we can work with. Once you see clearly, you can make a change. But that awareness has to begin with honesty. So let me ask you, how many minutes or even hours do you give away each day without meaning to? Not because anyone forced you, not because you chose it, but simply because the habit was already there, because the system was already built. And here's the surprising part. Many people today, especially adults, will admit something interesting. They don't even enjoy scrolling anymore. They don't feel excited about it. They do it out of habit. They do it when they're bored. They do it because it's what everyone else is doing. Social media has become almost like a reflex. Think about it. You're waiting in line at the store. You take out your phone. You're sitting on the bus. You take out your phone. You feel a little awkward at a party. You take out your phone. You feel anxious or restless. Again, you take out your phone. It has become the thing we reach for in almost every situation. Now, social media promises connection, but often what it gives us instead is distraction. It offers comfort, but sometimes it brings comparison. And when the day ends, you may notice something strange. The day feels busy, even if you didn't do much. The mind feels noisy, even if you were sitting still. And you feel tired, not from running or lifting or working hard physically, but from carrying the weight of so much information. So, what should we do with all of this? First, we don't panic. We don't need to throw away our phones or delete every account. We don't need to escape to the mountains to live like monks. Instead, we pause. We notice. We watch ourselves with curiosity, not with judgment. Because once you begin to see how deeply social media is woven into your daily routine, you can begin to choose. You can decide what that relationship should look like. You can bring awareness to your habits, your choices, and your time. It all begins with noticing. Noticing that a quick scroll has turned into an automatic behavior. Noticing that your thoughts are often influenced by the last thing you saw online. Noticing that time, this powerful, limited, precious thing called time, is slipping away quietly. Not because you wanted to waste it, but because you didn't even see it leaving. So today, don't judge. Just observe. Notice how often you pick up your phone. Notice how long you stay there. Notice how you feel before you scroll and how you feel after. These small questions can open big doors. Because once we see clearly, we can choose differently. And that's where change begins. The double-edged sword, connection versus comparison. Now, let's explore one of the biggest contradictions of our time, something that almost everyone feels, but few people fully understand. Thanks to social media, we have never been more connected. Think about it. You can message a friend on the other side of the world in just seconds. You can see someone's birthday, their wedding photos, their trips, even their everyday coffee cup, all without leaving your room. You can follow your favorite authors, artists, teachers, or thinkers and see what they are doing every day. And yet, many people say they feel lonelier than ever before.
How can that be?
How can we be surrounded by connection and still feel disconnected? Here's the truth. Social media is a double-edged sword. On one side, it gives us amazing opportunities for communication, inspiration, and creativity. But on the other side, it can quietly create a sense of distance, not only from others, but from ourselves. At the center of that problem is something subtle, but very powerful. Comparison. You've probably heard the saying, comparison is the thief of joy. And nowhere is this more obvious than on social media. You open your feed. You see a friend who just got a promotion. Another friend is on vacation. Perfect beach, perfect weather, perfect smile. Someone else just bought a house, got married, or published a book. And then there's you, sitting at home in your kitchen, still in your pajamas, tired, maybe feeling a little stuck. And even if you were feeling fine before, suddenly you begin to wonder, am I doing enough? Am I successful enough? Am I interesting enough? This is the danger of curated realities. What we see online is not the full truth. It's not the whole picture. It's the highlight reel, the polished version, the best moments chosen carefully to show. Think of a sports highlight video. What do you see? You see the goals, the celebrations, the winning moments. What don't you see? You don't see the missed shots, the hours of training, the sweat, the frustration, or the failure. Social media works in the same way. Most people share only their best moments. The good lighting, the happy news, the carefully chosen captions. There's nothing wrong with that. We all want to show the best side of our lives. It feels natural to share joy and hide struggle. But here's the problem. When we compare our real, messy, everyday life with someone else's carefully edited highlights, the comparison is unfair. And unfair comparisons create a heavy feeling that many of us know too well: FOMO, the fear of missing out. Now, FOMO is not just a trendy internet word. It's a real emotional experience. It can make you feel inadequate, anxious, and even sad. You see other people doing things you're not doing, living a life you're not living, and suddenly your own life feels smaller. It feels less exciting. It feels less important. But let's pause and look more closely. It's not that you've actually lost anything. You still have your own life, your own experiences, your own wins. What's happening is this: the illusion of someone else's perfect life makes your own life feel less valuable. And here's the truth that often gets lost. We don't see the full story. We don't see the tears, the doubts, the private arguments, the quiet insecurities. We only see what people choose to share. And what they share is usually just a small fraction of the truth. This pressure to keep up with others can be exhausting. It can push people to post things not because they truly want to, but because they feel like they should. Some people begin to measure their worth by likes, comments, and shares. But those numbers, those little hearts and thumbs up, do not reflect your real value as a human being. When you chase digital applause, you might look happy on your feed, but inside you can feel emotionally drained. And here's something important to reflect on. How many of your online connections actually feel like real connections? You might have hundreds, even thousands of followers. But how many of them know the real you? How many of them would answer the phone if you were having a truly hard day? That's the paradox of our time. We are more visible than ever before, but sometimes we are less truly seen. Social media, in this sense, is both a blessing and a curse. On one side, it gives us access to amazing people, ideas, and opportunities. It helps us stay in touch with loved ones, and it allows us to find communities we might never discover in real life. But if we're not careful, it can also become a trap that makes us chase connection through comparison, a trap that distracts us from depth, honesty, and emotional presence. So what can we do? We start with awareness. We ask ourselves simple but powerful questions. How do I feel after I scroll? Do I feel uplifted, or do I feel smaller? Does social media inspire me, or does it make me insecure? Am I posting because I want to share something meaningful, or because I want to prove something? These questions are not for judgment. They are for understanding. And understanding is the first step toward making conscious choices. Another useful practice is to remember this simple truth: you never see the whole picture. No matter how perfect someone's life looks online, there is always something behind the screen. Every person has struggles. Every smile has a story. Every photo has a frame, and outside that frame is real life, with all its challenges. And here's one more reminder. Success and happiness are not limited resources. Just because someone else is happy doesn't mean there is less happiness left for you. Just because someone else achieves something doesn't mean your own path is less meaningful. Just because someone else is shining doesn't mean your own light is any less bright. Life is not a competition. We're not racing each other. We're all simply trying to find our own path, step by step. And real connection, the kind of connection that feeds your heart and nourishes your spirit, doesn't come from endless scrolling. It doesn't come from chasing likes or views. It comes from presence, from openness, from vulnerability, from being your true self, both online and offline. So the next time you catch yourself comparing your life to someone else's, pause.
Take a breath.
Come back to yourself. Remember, you are not behind. You are not missing out. You are exactly where you need to be. You are on your own unique path, and that is enough. Shaping identity. Who are we becoming online? Now let's pause and ask a personal question, one that actually applies to almost everyone in today's world. Who are you online? Not just your username or profile picture, but your digital identity. The version of yourself you present to others through your posts, your stories, your comments. Think about it. What parts of yourself do you choose to share? What parts do you keep private? What kind of image are you building, piece by piece, every time you upload a photo, write a caption, or react to something? Social media gives us a power that no generation before us ever had, the power to shape and share our identity in real time. Every emoji, every selfie, every short video becomes a tiny piece of a larger puzzle, the story of you online. But here's the interesting thing. The you that people see online may not always match the you that exists in real life. Sometimes there's a gap, and sometimes that gap grows bigger than we'd like to admit. This brings us to an important distinction: authenticity versus performance. Authenticity means showing up honestly. It means being true to who you are, without pretending, without trying too hard to impress others. Performance, on the other hand, means playing a role. It doesn't always mean lying, but it does mean carefully managing how you appear, choosing what to show, what to hide, and how to attract attention. Performance is designed for effect. It's about making an impression, not always about being real. Now, think about your own experience. When you post something online, maybe a photo, a story, a funny thought, or even just a reaction, what's driving that choice? Are you expressing yourself honestly? Or are you trying to be seen in a certain way? Do you share who you really are? Or do you share who you wish to be? This isn't a question to make you feel guilty. It's simply a reflection. Because the truth is, we all perform to some extent. We all edit. We all pick our best pictures, our favorite angles, our most interesting moments. That's normal. That's human. But here's the risk. When the performance becomes too strong, when it turns into a mask, when you start to believe more in the character you play online than in the real person you are, then you can lose touch with your deeper self. It's easy to fall into this trap. Maybe you post something funny and people love it. Or you share something glamorous and get a lot of likes. Or you write something emotional and it gets a strong response. The attention feels good. Naturally, you feel pressure to repeat it. Slowly, you start building your online identity around what other people seem to enjoy, not around what feels real to you. Over time, the online you becomes like a character in a play, carefully scripted, carefully maintained. But behind the screen, you might feel something very different. You might feel disconnected. You might feel unsure. You might even feel exhausted by the effort of always trying to be someone. And this can create an inner tension. On the outside, online, you may look confident, polished, and in control. But inside, in private, you may feel insecure, tired, or even a little lost. You may sound joyful in your captions, but inside you could feel lost, anxious, or even lonely. And when people only respond to the version of you that looks happy, stylish, or successful, it can make you feel like no one really sees the whole you. That's one of the hardest parts of social media. It often rewards performance more than authenticity. The posts that are polished, dramatic, or perfectly timed usually get more attention. The algorithm, the hidden system that decides what people see, doesn't reward truth. It rewards engagement. It rewards what keeps people scrolling, clicking, and reacting. And that creates a strange, almost unfair situation. The more real you are, the more you risk being ignored. But the more you perform, the more visible you become, even if it doesn't feel true to who you are. This raises a much bigger question, not only for you as an individual, but for society as a whole. If our identities are shaped by what performs well online, what kind of people are we turning into? Are we learning to express ourselves more honestly? Or are we learning to be more strategic, always thinking about what will get the most likes? Are we building real confidence? Or are we building a dependence on the approval of others? For many people, this has real consequences. Slowly, their sense of self becomes tied to their online presence. They start checking likes to feel valued. They compare their posts to others to measure success. And without realizing it, they give away a piece of their identity to the digital world, who there starts to depend on how others react to them. But that's a fragile way to live. Because if your value depends on likes, comments, and shares, then it will always rise and fall with other people's attention. Here's the good news. Once you become aware of this pattern, you can choose differently. You can decide to use social media as a tool for expression, not just performance. You can post things that truly matter to you, even if they don't get much attention. You can take breaks from your apps to reconnect with your offline self. And most importantly, you can remind yourself over and over again that your worth is not defined by your digital image. Let me repeat that because it's so important. Your worth is not defined by your digital image, not by your followers, not by your likes, not by your comments. You are more than your profile. You are a whole human being. So ask yourself, what kind of digital identity am I creating? Does it reflect who I truly am, or only who I think others want me to be? Does it help me feel more connected to myself, or does it leave me more confused about who I am? These aren't easy questions, but they are important ones. Because in today's world, identity is no longer private. It is performed, observed, and evaluated 24/7. That's why we need courage to be honest. We need awareness to reflect. And we need wisdom to protect the parts of ourselves that don't need to be shared in order to be real. Remember, authenticity doesn't mean sharing everything. It simply means that whatever you do share comes from truth, your truth. And when you live from that place, both online and offline, you begin to create a stronger, more peaceful sense of self. A self that doesn't need to perform because it already belongs. Mental health and emotional well-being. Now, let's take a breath. Let's shift the focus inward to something that often gets overlooked in conversations about social media: our mental health. In recent years, more and more people have begun to notice a quiet, growing kind of exhaustion. Not a physical tiredness, but a mental one. A subtle fatigue that doesn't come from exercise or hard work, but from constant connection, constant input, and constant pressure to be noticed, seen, and validated. At first, social media seems harmless, even helpful. You open an app, scroll through some updates, like a few posts, maybe watch a funny video. It feels like a small break, a way to relax. But over time, this light activity can start to affect you more deeply than you realize. It can shape your emotions. It can influence your thoughts. It can leave you drained in ways that are invisible, but very real. And here's the thing. Many of us don't even notice these effects until they've already started to show up. We begin to feel anxious. We find it harder to focus. Our moods swing more often. Sleep becomes restless. And sometimes, We even feel disconnected from ourselves without knowing why. One of the biggest reasons for this is attention fatigue. Your brain is like your body, it has limits. Just as your muscles get tired after too much physical work, your attention also wears down after too much mental input. But social media doesn't stop. It feeds you notifications, headlines, videos, messages, and comments, one after another. Each one grabs a little piece of your attention, pulling you in 10 different directions at once. Over time, this makes it harder to concentrate on one thing. It becomes harder to finish a task without distraction. And it becomes harder to enjoy quiet, simple moments without reaching for your phone. Your mind starts jumping from one thing to the next, not because you choose to, but because it's been trained to do so. Another invisible pattern is something scientists call the dopamine feedback loop. Dopamine is a chemical in the brain connected to motivation and reward. Every time you get a like, a new message, or a new follower, your brain gets a small hit of dopamine. It feels good for a moment, like a little spark of happiness. But here's the catch: that feeling doesn't last. So your brain starts craving it again. You check your phone more often, waiting for that next small reward. And like any short-term pleasure, over time you need more frequent stimulation just to feel the same excitement. If the rewards don't come, you might even feel anxious, empty, or restless, sometimes without fully understanding why. This is part of what keeps people scrolling late at night, even when they're exhausted. It's what makes you pick up your phone during a quiet moment instead of sitting with your own thoughts. It's what turns a tool for connection into. You might interact with dozens of people in a single day online. You might be liked by hundreds, and yet still feel unseen, still feel unknown. Because likes and quick comments don't replace genuine presence. They don't replace the warmth of someone really listening, really caring, really knowing your story. Shallow connection can sometimes leave the heart even hungrier than before. On top of that, there's cognitive overload, the sense of having too much information and not enough emotional space to process it. News headlines, political debates, endless videos, conflicting opinions. Your brain is trying to sort through it all, but it can't keep up. This overload often leads to decision fatigue. You struggle to make choices because you're mentally drained. It can lead to emotional numbness. You scroll and consume, but you stop feeling deeply. It can even lead to burnout, where everything feels too much and nothing feels meaningful. Slowly, you stop asking yourself, "What do I think? What do I feel?" Instead, you just react automatically. You consume more, but feel less. You respond more, but reflect less. And underneath all of this, there's something psychologists call limiting beliefs. These are quiet, subconscious ideas we begin to accept about ourselves, often shaped by endless comparison and exposure to unrealistic standards. You might begin to believe you're not attractive enough, not successful enough, not interesting enough. Not because these things are true, but because you're constantly surrounded by people who appear to have it all. These beliefs don't shout. They whisper. But over time, they become part of your inner voice. And the danger is, when you hear that voice long enough, you begin to think it's the truth. So let me ask you something. And I want you to pause for a moment and answer honestly, even if it's just quietly in your own mind. When is the last time you did something purely offline, just for yourself? Not for the feed, not to share, not to prove anything, not to capture it for later, but simply to enjoy. Maybe it was a walk where you didn't take any photos. Maybe it was a meal where you didn't post a single update. Maybe it was a creative moment, drawing, writing, playing music, without an audience. If it's been a while, You're not alone. Many of us have become so used to documenting and sharing everything that we've forgotten what it feels like to simply be present, to experience something privately, quietly, without the invisible weight of an audience in our minds. Reclaiming that kind of space, your own offline space, isn't about rejecting technology. It's not about deleting every app or running away to the mountains. It's about something simpler and much more powerful, protecting your mental and emotional space. Your nervous system is constantly buzzing with input. Notifications, headlines, updates, alerts. It never really stops. But peace doesn't come from constant stimulation. Peace comes from depth, from slowness, from stillness. And you can start small. Take a walk without your phone. Spend 10 quiet minutes in the morning before opening any apps. Write something by hand. Call a friend instead of sending a quick message. These aren't huge life changes, but they're important starting points. They help your brain remember what it feels like to rest, to focus, to connect deeply. And they remind you that you don't need to be on all the time to live meaningfully. Because here's the truth. Social media is not just a screen you look at. It's a space you live in mentally, emotionally, socially. And like any space, it shapes you. So you have to ask, is this a space where my well-being can breathe? Now let's step back and look at the bigger picture, because the influence of social media goes beyond personal habits. It also shapes the way we see the world itself. Whether we notice it or not, social media has become more than just a tool we use. It's become a lens, a filter, that colors the way we perceive reality. It's even become a kind of mirror, reflecting back our own beliefs and preferences. One of the most powerful ways this happens is through what's called an echo chamber. This is when your digital environment is filled mostly with opinions, posts, and information that already match what you believe. How does this happen? Through algorithms. Every like, every click, every share, every pause you make while watching a video, these signals are tracked. And based on this data, the platform learns what catches your attention. Then it gives you more of it. At first, this feels convenient. Your feed feels personal, tailored, designed just for you. But over time, something subtle happens. Your world starts to shrink. You stop seeing different perspectives. Your feed becomes less of a conversation and more of a confirmation. This creates what researchers call a filter bubble. You see the same kinds of stories, the same opinions, the same narratives again and again. It creates the illusion that everyone thinks this way. But of course, that's not true. The algorithm isn't showing you the whole picture. It's showing you a curated version of reality. And while this isn't always malicious, the effects are serious. When we only hear voices that agree with us, our thinking becomes narrower. We stop questioning. We stop listening. We become more vulnerable to groupthink, where the desire to fit in or agree with others overrides independent thought and critical reasoning. As these bubbles harden, polarization deepens. Different groups stop talking with each other and start talking against each other. The middle ground becomes smaller, and empathy becomes harder. What began as a tool for connection quietly turns into a force for division. And the danger is that we don't always notice it happening because it feels normal. It's not just that people disagree online. It often goes much further than that. On social media, people don't just hold different opinions, they can begin to dehumanize those who think differently. In other words, instead of seeing others as people with their own stories, experiences, and emotions, they reduce them to the enemy or the other side. What happens next is predictable. Disagreements quickly escalate. A simple debate can turn into a fight. Comments turn harsh. Posts become less about sharing real ideas and more about performing for an audience. The subtle details, the nuance, disappear. What remains is raw emotion, quick reactions, and a cycle of outrage that keeps repeating. We see this most clearly in politics, social justice issues, and cultural debates. If you've ever scrolled through your feed during an election season or a global crisis, you've probably noticed how divided people seem. It's not just that they disagree about policies or opinions. They disagree about basic facts, about what's true, about values themselves. And in this storm of division, misinformation spreads like wildfire. False stories, edited pictures, misleading headlines, these often move faster than the truth.
Why?
Because content that is shocking or emotional makes people react strongly. They click, they share, they comment. And the algorithm, the system that decides what shows up in your feed, rewards this kind of engagement. It doesn't reward accuracy. It rewards attention. By the time fact-checkers try to correct a false claim, it has already reached thousands or even millions of people. The damage is done. Another trend connected to this environment is cancel culture. This is when a person is shamed, boycotted, or pushed out of public life because of something they said or did. At its core, cancel culture is about accountability. People want to hold others responsible for harmful actions. But online, it often plays out like digital mob justice. Instead of real conversation, reflection, or change, people are reduced to a single mistake, a single tweet, or a single video clip. Labels are attached. Judgment is swift. And complexity, the truth that humans are messy, flawed, and capable of growth, gets lost. The important thing to understand is that these patterns don't stay online. They leak into our real lives. They influence how people vote, how governments make decisions, how communities treat each other, and how public conversations unfold. At the heart of this problem is something called tribalism. Instead of aligning with ideas, people begin to align with sides. It becomes us versus them. In this environment, empathy is seen as weakness. Listening with an open mind becomes rare. The goal is no longer to understand. It's to win. And when winning is all that matters, dialogue dies. So, what can we do? Are we stuck in these digital silos, only hearing voices that echo our own beliefs? Or is there another way? There is. It starts with awareness and small choices. The next time you scroll through your feed, ask yourself, am I learning something new here? Or am I only seeing what I already believe? Am I being informed? Or am I just being reinforced? Do I really know if this post is true? Or am I sharing it because it made me feel something? Instead of rushing to react, pause. Instead of reposting something sensational, check it. Instead of blocking every opposing view, challenge yourself to read at least one thoughtfully written perspective from the other side. You don't have to agree with it, but you can let it stretch your thinking. Because the truth is, social media is powerful. It shapes how we see the world. It influences how societies function. But at its core, it's still just a tool. It isn't purely good or purely bad. What matters most is how we use it and how aware we are of its influence. When we choose to engage more consciously, with curiosity instead of defensiveness, with patience instead of outrage, we can bring back nuance, empathy, and dialogue into our digital spaces. And when that happens, we not only change our online world, we also change our real one. The business behind the screens. Every time you scroll, every time you tap like, every time you share a post, something bigger is happening behind the scenes. What feels like a simple moment of entertainment or connection is actually part of a carefully designed business model. Social media isn't just a space for self-expression or keeping up with friends. At its core, it's a business, and not just any business, but one that is built into what we call the attention economy. Here's how it works. Your attention is the currency. It's the most valuable resource you have online. Every second you spend looking at your screen, every post you engage with, every video you finish or abandon, it all feeds an ecosystem that runs on data and profit. The longer you stay, the more ads the platform can show you. The more you interact, the more valuable you become. In fact, you're not really the customer. You're the product. You've probably heard that phrase before. If the product is free, you are the product. But have you ever stopped to think about what it actually means? These platforms track everything. What you like, what you watch, how long you pause before scrolling, which posts make you comment, even which ones make you scroll away faster. Every tiny action becomes a data point, and when you add up millions of those points, the algorithm begins to understand you in ways you might not even understand yourself. With this knowledge, the platform builds a feed that feels personalized, almost like it knows what you want before you do. But the goal isn't to make your life better. The goal is to keep you hooked, to keep you coming back, to keep you engaged just long enough to see more ads. This business model has a name: surveillance capitalism. That's the term scholars use to describe the way companies profit by collecting, analyzing, and selling your personal data. It sounds invasive, and it is, but it's wrapped in sleek design, convenience, and endless entertainment. Most of us don't even notice it happening, or we shrug it off because the apps feel so useful. But think about this. Have you ever ended up buying something you didn't plan to buy, simply because it kept appearing in your feed? At first, you scroll past it. Then you see it again. Then again. After a while, it feels almost natural to click by now. That's not coincidence. That's the system at work, using psychology, repetition, and data to influence your impulses. And it goes beyond shopping. These platforms don't just sell products. They also sell influence. Political campaigns, social movements, corporate agendas, all of them flow through the same monetized channels. Whoever pays the most or sparks the strongest emotions gets the most visibility. And what kind of content spreads the fastest? Usually not the careful, thoughtful posts. Not the content that asks you to slow down and reflect. Instead, it's the content that triggers outrage, fear, or excitement. The algorithm rewards emotion, especially negative ones, because they keep people glued to their screens. The result? A society that is often shaped less by what we need to know and more by what keeps us clicking. There's a concept in behavioral economics called choice architecture. It means that the way choices are presented to us influences the decisions we make. Social media platforms are master architects. The design of your feed, the timing of notifications, the placement of ads, none of it is random. It's all carefully tested, refined, and optimized to capture your attention and guide your behavior in subtle ways. And so, what looks like casual scrolling is actually participation in one of the most powerful business models of our time: steering behavior and awareness. Social media platforms are designed very carefully. They are not random or neutral spaces. Every feature, every notification, every suggested post is made to guide your behavior in subtle ways. The goal is to increase your screen time, keep you engaged, and make sure you keep coming back. On the surface, this might seem harmless. After all, scrolling through posts, watching videos, or reacting to memes can feel entertaining or relaxing. But when these techniques are applied to important areas of our lives, like our health, our relationships, our political opinions, or even how we see ourselves, they become concerning. The technology is powerful, and it can influence decisions without us even realizing it. So, what can we do? The first step is awareness. We need to become more thoughtful and critical users. Understanding the business model behind social media gives us power. When we know that our attention is being monetized, literally turned into profit for someone else, we can begin asking better questions. Do I really want to spend an hour on this app right now? Why am I seeing this content? Is this ad serving me, or am I serving it? The second step is advocacy and action. Social media companies are some of the most powerful and least accountable organizations in the world. They influence public opinion, consumer choices, and even our mental health. As users, we have a voice. We can support ethical technology, use privacy tools, and call for more transparency and regulation. Small actions by many people can slowly change the system. Finally, it helps to remember the human side of social media. Behind every post, video, or comment is a person, just like you, looking for connection, meaning, or recognition. But when these efforts are filtered through a system designed to exploit attention, we risk losing something important: our agency, our time, and even our values. So next time you open an app, pause and ask yourself, what am I doing here? Who is benefiting from me being here? The answers might surprise you. Taking back control, conscious use of social media. Even though social media is everywhere in our lives, we can reclaim our control. It starts with a shift in mindset. Social media is a tool. It can be used to build, to inspire, or to connect. But it can also distract, drain, and manipulate. The difference lies in how we use it. We need to move from autopilot to intentional use. Right now, many of us instinctively reach for our phones as soon as we wake up or during small moments of stillness. We scroll without thinking, react without pausing, and consume more content in a day than previous generations did in weeks. And this isn't an accident. Social media is carefully engineered to keep us hooked. Techniques like intermittent rewards, when you get likes or comments unpredictably, train your brain to keep checking. Awareness is the first step toward change. Once we understand how these systems work, we can make choices that empower us instead of control us. So, what does conscious social media use look like? Set digital boundaries. Decide in advance when and how long you'll use certain apps. Use timers if needed, and turn off notifications that constantly demand your attention. Curate your feed. Unfollow accounts that make you feel drained, jealous, or inadequate. Follow accounts that inspire, teach, or entertain in meaningful ways. Protect your attention. Treat your focus as a valuable asset. Every minute online is a minute of your attention, and in the attention economy, it has real value. By taking these steps, you shift from being a passive user to an active driver of your digital life. You're no longer just reacting to the system. You're steering it, making choices that support your well-being, your growth, and your peace of mind. Mindful social media use. Your focus, your attention is a form of currency. You have the right to spend it wisely. One powerful way to take back control is to practice mindful scrolling. Before opening an app, pause for a moment and ask yourself, why am I going here right now? What do I hope to get out of this? Am I scrolling because I'm bored, lonely, or just seeking connection? Often we scroll not because we truly need to, but because it has become a habit. Bringing intention to this behavior isn't about shame or guilt. It's about aligning your digital actions with your real values. When your online behavior matches what you truly care about, you experience less inner conflict and more emotional clarity. Another helpful approach is to create screen-free rituals. These are intentional breaks from devices, not as punishment, but as restoration. Examples include taking a morning walk without your phone, reading a book before bed instead of endlessly scrolling, enjoying a meal without checking notifications. These small moments reconnect you with the present. They give your mind a chance to process, breathe, and reset. After all, the richness of life doesn't exist on a screen. It exists in your senses, in your relationships, and in quiet moments of reflection. It's important to remember that perfection is not the goal. There will be days when old habits creep back in, and that's okay. The goal is not total disconnection. It is meaningful reconnection. Ask yourself, could you use social media more intentionally without completely disconnecting? This doesn't require deleting apps or doing a full digital detox. It simply requires presence. Notice how you feel after spending time online. Energized, informed, inspired, or anxious, scattered, or numb. Even small shifts, just a 10% increase in awareness, can create significant improvements in focus, peace, and self-respect. The challenge here is not technical, it's psychological. It's about reclaiming ownership over your attention, your time, and ultimately your identity. Social media should not define who you are or how you feel. You decide that. You choose how to show up online and, even more importantly, how to show up for yourself. In the end, this isn't about quitting the digital world. It's about participating with your eyes open and your values intact. Life happens in the present, not just in the feed. You are not a passive consumer. You are a conscious creator. Every post, every pause, every choice is a chance to take back control, not just of your screen, but of your story, reflection, and pause. As we reach the end of this exploration of social media, it's time to pause and look inward. Over the past few minutes, we've seen how deeply social media is connected to our personal identities, mental health, and even society itself. We've uncovered that platforms designed for connection can sometimes distort it. Our online self-presentation may not match our true selves. Algorithms shape not only what we see, but what we believe. And our attention has become a valuable currency in a system we rarely consider. Now, the real question begins: how will you choose to engage with this digital world? How will you protect your focus, your values, and your sense of self, taking control and moving forward? So, what do we do with this awareness? How do we, as conscious users of digital tools, move forward with more clarity, balance, and purpose? This isn't about deleting all your accounts or going off to live in a cabin in the woods. It's not extreme. Instead, it's an invitation, a chance to reevaluate your relationship with the digital world. Ask yourself, what kind of online presence truly serves me, rather than just my image? What type of content adds meaning to my life, instead of simply filling the silence? What boundaries could help me feel more grounded in my real life, even while staying connected online? Awareness is powerful, but awareness alone isn't enough. We need agency. That means taking active control. Scrolling with intention rather than habit. Following fewer accounts but paying more attention to what you actually value. Spending more time being present than broadcasting your life. This isn't about disconnection. It's about discernment. Choosing what truly matters, what nourishes you, and what leaves you feeling drained. So ask yourself, What kind of relationship do I want with my online world? And what kind of connection do I want with my real one? These aren't easy questions. They don't have quick answers. But simply asking them is a first step toward a more balanced, fulfilling, and mentally healthy life. Remember, your digital world isn't something happening to you. It's something you participate in, shape, and co-create every time you log in. You have more control than you think. You also have more responsibility than you might realize. Don't underestimate your ability to change your digital habits, and with them, your everyday experience. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Super English Talks, where we explore not just language, but life. If this reflection felt meaningful, consider listening again, speaking your thoughts out loud to practice English fluency, or sharing this episode with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe, because learning English is about understanding not just the words, but the world. Until next time, stay curious, stay thoughtful, and most of all, stay present.